Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey, Jared Brennan is sick, but we also have...
Billy Spitfire Unlimited.
That's right. Hey, everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to death. You are listening to our little show, the Guitar Knobs podcast. Billy, I'm going to ask you just real quick. Do you think we have any special guests? That's right, Tony, we do. Special guests, who are you?
Really special guests.
I'm Trey Bourgeois of Retroactive Pedals.
And I'm Tyler Blanchard, a.k.a. Tree Moss the Visualizer.
Tree Moss the Visualizer. Man, you need like you must have a good rap game going.
That's the audioalizer.
Well, anyways, these two dudes are from Retroactive Pedals, and we're really excited to talk to them. We're going to learn all about what they make, why they make it, and the fun they have when making it.
And who they make it for.
That's, maybe learn that too. We're going to also talk about all kinds of cool gear stuff.
I love it.
And Billy, what do we do on the show? For anybody that might be joining for the very first time.
We talk about the stuff.
Perfect. Tony, would you like to elaborate on that?
I will. We like to talk about boutique stuff.
Yes.
Specifically, the builders and the makers and the movers and the shakers of boutique stuff.
Yeah.
And that stuff includes things like guitars and amps and pedals and accessories and
Demos.
pick guards and pickups.
And all kinds of junk. Yeah. So, and tonight we're going to be covering off on these delicious pedals that they're making. One of which we have right in front of us, which we'll get to talking about pretty soon. But in the meantime, guys, where can they go learn about your wares?
At the moment, we are on www.retroactivepedals.com. We're on Instagram at retroactive_pedals. And Tyler, as my social media kind of guru guy, he has set us up on TikTok, and you might have to tell him the name on there because I don't really go on it.
It's just Retroactive Pedals. Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow.
Not surprising.
That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a YouTube, I think, as well. Like, we're trying to get that going a little bit more. So, if you could, we have a channel on YouTube, and we're going to try to do a little bit more video content.
It's hard to do all that stuff.
It is. That's why I got Tyler on board. Tyler and I have known each other for a couple of years now. And he has his own podcast, and he runs marketing campaigns for other companies. And I thought that he would be a great guy to bring on to sort of expand where I was at with Retroactive, just being by myself.
Yeah.
And so, he really showed me a lot in that regard, and getting that stuff set up. So, because if it was up to me, I obviously would kind of stick to Instagram just because that's where Retroactive was kind of born. And I think at a certain time, that's where a lot of companies were kind of born in a way.
Yeah.
So
we get a little bit of sea change right now in certain ways.
And, I'm just like, I don't want to keep up with it, unfortunately. So I keep Tyler around so he can keep up with it for me.
Oh, nice. So what's going to be the next Instagram?
Tyler probably would know better than me.
They didn't make it yet.
I know, but if
we're on the verge of where that's end up, because you see how the micro videos are just completely sucking in the public. Right?
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a platform that's not going to be so heavily conspired against based off of who's eating that algorithm. Not to name any names there, but it's not going to be what we have now. It's give it 5 years, you'll see a new platform emerge, and they're going to really kind of give it back to the audience rather than just being served by the algorithm.
I think we're all hoping and counting on something like that.
It's called MySpace 2.0.
There you go.
Will that be available on AOL?
Yeah.
only if you subscribe to Yahoo News.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, so let's get on with this, ladies and gentlemen. We have an awful lot of cool gear stuff to talk about. thank you for joining us tonight. Or today, wherever you're at. Maybe you're like, dude, it's like 8 a.m. I'm trying to like drive around all these Yahoos and it's bringing me down.
Yeah, but it's night.
But we're about to bring you up, baby. Yeah. All right. We need to just say thanks to for providing our awesome audio gear, our microphones, the Rodecaster Pro, and the Procaster mics.
Yes.
I've almost forgot what they're.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I know.
Good stuff with articulating arms.
That is correct. I'm going to just jump because we got a lot to do. I'm just going to jump right into. Let's get going on what's going on in our music worlds this week.
No other announcements?
Tanya Bolonsky is going to lead us off, and then we're going to check in with our friends Trey and Tyler, and then we'll hit the rest of us. Okay.
Okay.
Do it, Tony.
Well, thank you, Todd, for that invitation. I would just today I brought in for the boys to take a look at it. Show and Tell Day. Is it Tell and Show? No, Show and Tell. Show and Tell Day. A guitar that I've always had my eye on, but I never really wanted to spend the money to do it.
Yeah.
So I found, and those listeners who are familiar with my buying habits.
Yeah. He's boutique, but he's cheap.
But I end up spending enough to bring it back into.
He does spend an awful lot on like real gear too.
Yes.
That just means.
But long story short, I was perusing my friends at DHgate, and they had a very nice. No, I know chuckling over there. They had a very nice Gretsch style Billy Bow, and for those
quote style,
heavy on the style, light on the Gretsch, and it's actually. I had some coupons and some other crazy stuff, so. I think with shipping and everything, it came to like $267. Okay, so I said, well, you know what, $267. I'll roll the dice on that. That's nothing. So, it. I mean, and with all these things, it takes longer than you think to get here. It's gonna, this one took about a month and a half to get here, and when I got it. I opened it up and I said, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Now, cosmetically, there were some weird things, and they obviously didn't use the right pickups. But what I typically do with any of these projects is I gut them, and I replace the tuners. I replace all the electronics. I do a fret job on them. And 9 times out of 10, they turn into a pretty decent guitar. And this one is actually a really good example. Out of all the Chinese guitars that I've bought, this one actually is one of the nicer playing. It was set up pretty well. It looks
great. I mean, I think you'd actually be pretty hard pressed.
Well, yeah. I mean, I put the right pickups in, the TV Jones pickups, and wired it properly, and put the proper Grover tuners onto the stay tights, and. It's just a really cool guitar. Now, I mean, a connoisseur would know some of the differences, but I mean, in terms of the shape of the body and everything, it's 100% right.
Yeah.
So
beautiful color too.
Yeah, it's
like
done in the
red.
Well, it's done in Jet Firebird color, so it has a red
Corvette
top.
red.
Well, Jet Firebird, Gretsch was a model, and actually that's what Bo Diddley played originally, was a Jet Firebird, and it has
a Corvette though.
Well, he probably did have a Corvette by then.
Probably 6 of them. Yeah. Yeah, like a polka.
I saw Bo Diddley one time.
Did you?
Really?
Yeah. He was playing one of those cigar box guitars, and he had the bow, whatever.
He had like that?
Yeah.
The Billy Bow.
The Billy Bow. The Billy Bow, yeah.
So anyhow, long story short, I think with all the parts and everything, for about $500, I think it's a stage worthy guitar. I mean,
yeah, the case
costs more than the guitar, or almost as much as the guitar, because these guitars.
Case.
Well, it is a Gretsch case, and that's
case.
the only thing that fits this model, because it's surprisingly the one horn is as long as a Flying V. So it's crazy. It's like a stretched out guitar. It is, but as we were talking earlier, it's an incredibly comfortable guitar to play.
Been so high when he designed that thing, I swear. Like he had to have been like just flipping.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you have it.
Well, that's cool, Tony.
So that's, to me, is a good week.
Would you recommend more DHgate guitars? Like the gamble, is it worth it?
You have to be very careful. And, a lot of times you kind of look at the seller, see how many transactions they've had, what kind of feedback that they've had. I will tell you this, that in my experience, I've had about a 50% success rate. And I mean, that sometimes.
But you end up getting like 2 guitars back.
Well, every once in a while, I mean, people screw up and they ship it to the wrong place. I mean, I've never had a problem getting my money back on something that was lost or never shipped. But when I say a 50% rate or 50%,
you should say what is the absolute failure rate, because the success rate is negligible. Because you've ended up with like, oh, we're just going to send you another guitar. You can keep the wrong one.
Yeah. I mean, a prime example. I ordered. This was when I first started ordering from them. I wanted a Dan Armstrong style clear plexi guitar. Well, they sent me a bass, and I said, I ordered a guitar, and they said, oh. Well, how about will you cover shipping for the guitar? And it was like $100. I said, okay.
He's got a matching pair of Dan Armstrong.
Wow.
Style.
Wow.
One of a kind, man. That's awesome.
Hey, it is. I have a boat that needs an anchor.
Yeah.
That is an excellent boat anchor.
Well, and sitting in here is what I got given to me for a birthday a little while back, which is like an Epiphone Sheraton Union Jack. Actually, it says Gibson on the top.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it must be.
Happy Chichester was admiring that guitar last week. Yeah, he was in for a recording.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, it's got a Bigsby style Bigsby
with the logo upside down.
But the thing plays great. We got it all dialed in, and I love that guitar because it was given to me as a gift. So it's not about like, oh, I have the exact thing. It's like, yeah, it's a cool thing.
It's an homage.
Yeah.
So to answer your question,
yes and no.
Buyer beware. And you can, I mean, if you play your cards right, you can usually end up with something decent, but it's going to need work.
I think it's a great outlet for real specialty guitars. Like if you're like, man, I've wanted a Randy Rhoads Polka Dot V for the longest time. Well, or you can pay, you can go get the real one. And that's going to be a grip. Or you can.
I'm glad you said that because I rolled those dice before and I wanted the Ouija board Kirk Hammett.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So I ordered this and I'm a lefty. So like it just doesn't exist as a left-handed guitar.
Yep.
And on DHgate 2009, I decided, hey, I'm gonna try $250 and it's a real ESP. Sure.
Real. Quote real.
It's a real good ESP.
Yeah. It's a real close ESP.
2 months later, this thing shows up and it's the white one with the black graphic on a lefty. And it looked phenomenal. Like it looked great. And as soon as I picked it up, it literally like almost fell apart.
Oh no.
Should have just left it in the package and like used as a display piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
The playability was completely trashed, but it looked super cool.
Well, I will say that in probably the last 5 years that they have improved. The manufacturers are making better products over there. And I think you even
They're
see
all
that.
coming from Samick, aren't they?
Well, no. No, although Samick is the world's largest guitar producer in the world. But they, I think they are, you see it even with Fenders and a lot of other manufacturers. The stuff coming from China.
The new Fenders, they're great. The import ones?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, they're almost all import now.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Okay.
I want to see you play, JD McPherson?
Who?
JD McPherson?
No.
He's a rockabilly player.
Yeah.
And he has a Christmas album out called, I don't know what it's called, JD McPherson's Christmas album. But he has a song on that album called Socks. It's a funny tune.
Ah.
Yeah, but he plays a billy bow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys do.
Yeah.
Hey,
right on.
I'm going to, right before we hear from Trey and Tyler, you mentioned the Christmas album. I want to recommend this. We actually gave a couple of these away maybe about 3-4 years ago.
No,
5 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, say 2 years ago.
3 years ago.
All right. Anyways, there's a player in Chicago named Joel Patterson who is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I saw him in concert with JD McPherson.
you
It was
gotta be
right here
kidding
in
me.
town. It was
Oh,
at the
he's
NAM
so
last year.
good.
It was last year about this time.
He is.
They both did their Christmas albums.
He might
Amazing.
arguably, well, he's definitely one of my favorite guitarists of all time. But his Christmas album is,
Yes.
I mean, it is on constant repeat at my house. It's so
Nice.
good.
It's
And it's all instrumental, cool guitar. Like
He has a cool Beatles one, too.
the Beatles one is fantastic as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Anyways, highly recommend. You can listen to it on
Joel
anywhere
Patterson.
you stream it, but you can also go get the vinyl. And if you're in Chicago, you can go see him. Is it the Green Mill? I think it's at the Green. He plays at the Green Mill all the time. Anyways, okay. Sorry. I want you guys to be happy and get experience.
Todd is in the Christmas spirit.
I love
Oh,
Christmas.
he is.
I love it. And
Into
you
it.
know what? Let's find out what Tyler and Trey are doing. Trey, why don't you go ahead and start out?
What am I doing for Christmas?
What's going on in your music world this week?
Nothing really. Speaking of Christmas songs, though, I did actually. So I play drums in a band in Nashville, and we actually just recorded a Christmas song.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday. Other than that, though, I'm going to go to New Orleans, visit my family for Christmas. But other than that, there's really nothing much going on. I mean, I have a lot of irons in the fire with like ideas, and I got a thing moving right now. I finally got some enclosures in for an idea. I got to send it off to my Salt Lake City guy who does the faceplates, this little sticky faceplates.
They're so cool. I can't wait to talk about those. I love them.
Well, I think this is a good segue. Maybe we should ask Tyler what he's doing for Christmas, though.
Yes.
I'll be rocking the Brian Setzer Christmas album.
Nice.
That's a good one, too.
Oh, may I interject?
Yeah.
I picked up are you familiar with John Fahey, acoustic guitar, American primitive guitar player?
John Fahey. That sounds
John
really
Fahey.
familiar.
I have a Christmas album by him, actually. I take it back. It's actually a Christmas cassette. I found it at the thrift store, and I was like, why not? It's Christmas. This was 2 years ago. And I popped it in, and it ended up being one of the – it's kind of how I discovered John Fahey in a way. Later did I know Kurt Weill is big inspired by John Fahey, and a lot of finger pickers are. And so I've been going down a John Fahey rabbit hole like really hardcore since I'm a finger picker myself.
Really?
Nice.
That's cool.
That's one to check out.
I dig it. All right. Well, let's hear from Tyler.
Yeah, so I've been that album as far as the last 10 Christmases go, because it's really the only one that I could get down with. But yeah, so music wise, I mostly just do studio work. I'm in a band setting probably about 5 years, and I kind of miss it, but at the same time, it's kind of like the struggle of running a band like a business becomes a serious problem if the parts aren't all on the same page, kind of deal. So yeah, I've been mostly working studio work lately, and the audio side of things has really kind of bled into the video and visual side of work. So it's kind of like becoming one piece of media or medium for me to work in lately, which is super exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, it's video and audio are a beautiful magic.
Video killed the radio star, you know.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Billy.
What's going on in my music world around this Christmas season? I just played in Indianapolis at the Melody Inn.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
World famous at Melody Inn. And
We
people
gotta
will
get a show out there with you guys at that, man.
I know. Well, yeah, we were with a couple other bands, you know, from the area. It's a fascinating place. There's just tons of nostalgic and oddball pieces and parts of rock and roll paraphernalia. You know, there's a Elvis lamp. There's Kiss statues.
It's a wild
There's
place.
busted up guitars that, were busted on stage and they just nailed them to the wall when they were done. That kind of thing. So it's a fun place. And I was playing through my Sun Serato head.
Oh.
It's 50-watt bass head, tube head, through my Mesa 212 cabinet. It's a vertical.
How's that spelled? How's that spelled? Serato.
Sorado.
Okay.
Serato.
I was just curious because there's like in the DJ world, there's Serato, which is like I believe it's the tone that carries the album over the audio file. I forgot how it works. I used to work for a backline company and set up a bunch of stuff, but it's called Serato, but it's Serato.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Basically, in the DJ realm, I believe if you have an LP physically, there's no audio on it. I think it just shoots a straight tone out, but you need the Serato interface to basically like convert that tone to actual music that you have playing digitally through your computer.
Now we have a rabbit hole to explore. That's
how
interesting.
it works.
That's interesting.
I could be totally wrong. I'm not big on the DJ gear. I just had to kind of set it up.
Yeah, right. So anyway, people were ogling that old Sun head.
Yeah.
And it's great because it gets like a nice low end. My rhythm guitar player plays through a Marshall, and he's got the, bright, sparkly, crispy, crunchy thing going on. And I've got more of a, down mid-range and lower
Yeah, you get a pretty
tone.
brown
It's pretty fat
thing
you know.
going,
It's
yeah.
pretty fat going on. So anyway,
Nice.
that was my fun. But I do have something to ask the world who's listening right now.
Right.
Is two things about that Mesa 212 vertical cabinet. It has Celestions in it. They're 30-watt Celestions, but I've been told that they are somehow extra wound or extra loud so that they can carry more watts than what a normal 30-watt Celestion does. And I've also been told that I should mic the bottom speaker of the cabinet as opposed to the top speaker. My friend Hex in the Whiskey Daredevils suggested that to get a more true to what my tone is on stage as opposed to being brighter and sparklier. On the top.
If those two are different, then yeah, maybe. If they're the same,
they're the same speaker. One's pointed. The vertical cabinet has one angled so that it points to your head while you're on stage, and the other one is pointing.
If they're the same exact
to the back
speaker,
of your
that really
knees.
shouldn't matter. But
Unless there's two separate cavities, one's ported and one's not.
Well,
Yeah.
no, they're both. It's entirely enclosed in the back. So anyway, I was just kind of curious if anybody had any thoughts
don't
on
know.
that. So
Maybe
maybe
Hex-
on a later
maybe Hex
show,
can weigh in on that too.
yeah. See if there's any.
actually, you might want to give Warehouse Guitar Speakers a holler. They've been on the show twice, and they are super helpful.
I've been reluctant to like modify it to find out because I mean, why fix what sounds great already?
Sure,
but I'm always looking for that extra edge.
Sure.
Should I switch it to a traditional 30-watt Celestion, the vintage, or should I, mic the bottom and make sure I do that every time religiously?
I think you should mic them both.
Mic them. Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
do one off access and one
Yeah.
like just straight up.
Yeah. So anyway,
Do that.
I
All
did
right.
see
that's my
release
musical world this week.
What about you, Todd?
Well,
Lee?
hang on. I think was it Trey weighing in there?
I did see Mesa release the Badlander in different variants now, which is pretty awesome. That's a killer amp.
I did want to ask Todd something. Sorry.
Sure, yeah.
Warehouse speakers. Is that what Stu Mac carries?
I'm sure they do. They're
All
in
right.
Kentucky, and they basically, I think for many of the more production model type amps that come with some sort of Celestion, they are definitely a step up. I replaced the ones in my Marshall Origin cab. And I mean, all you have to do is open the back up and hold the two next to each other. And you're like, holy crap, this is a huge difference. And they're super duper affordable. They're modeled after most of the sounds that we're all chasing. And everything's made right here. So it's kind of a cool deal. And that also allows you to, I have a 212 cabinet as well, for my Origin 50 that I play on stage, and I put more of a creamy tone on in one, and I put a slightly brighter, like a little bit more of a declared punch in one, so I can mic them both if I want. Yeah, and it's a nice split.
Splitting it coming out of, where do you split it from? Straight out of the guitar? Or
it's not split. They're both in the same cabinet. So I've got mixed tone coming right out of the cabinet already.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. Nice.
And they're great to work with. And they've been on the show twice. So if you want to learn a whole lot about speakers, go back into our catalog and check them out. For me this week, I had a delightful find. I've had my eyeball on this particular thing for quite some time, and I look at Craigslist every single day, multiple times a day. I mean, I'm kind of addicted to it.
Yes, he is.
And when you're scrolling, you're going nope, and then the thing, and you're like, and you're like, you back up as fast as you can. Did I just see what I think I just saw?
Right.
And I did, and I made an offer, and the guy accepted, and I ended up with an absolute pristine Jack Cassidy bass.
Mm-hmm.
It's an Epiphone. It's piano black. And I'm going to put a gold pickguard on it because that's what I do. And it came with the case. And I mean, they look like I just unboxed them. I mean, I wonder if it was ever even played. Honestly, I don't even.
And it came in a real nice hard shell case too.
It was, the case was beautiful. The case, I mean, and I got a sweetheart deal on it, and I was just thrilled. I'm not a bass player, but I do like playing bass. Mm-hmm. And I thought this would be a great addition to my collection that I'm growing that are all black with gold glitter guards.
Your noir collection.
My noir collection for the Valentine.
So let me ask you this: have you had a chance to play around with that pickup that's in there?
I have. I like it a lot.
You like it?
I do. Now I think depending on what amp you're using, that's really when you're going to need that. It's got a variable, like a veritone kind of switch.
But isn't it? It's the output or the pickup impedance, isn't it? Or is it a true veritone?
I got to be honest. You're gonna have to. I haven't done the massive homework on that switch. I just know that it gives you different tone.
Consider that your assignment.
I will.
I would like a full report on the next episode.
It gives you one that's like a little bit more mid heavy, and then the next one is mid and bass heavy.
Okay.
But
because it's a low impedance pickup.
Is like that's the money there. Like you roll off the tone just a little bit, and all of a sudden, oh man, it sounds fantastic. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't have a bass head. And what am I going to do? I just go direct. I just plug it into the HX Stomp and put my headphones in, and I'm playing bass all night. And with like a whole bunch of different. I spent 2 hours last night just kicking to the next one and go, oh, this sounds amazing, and it was great fun. So
there you go.
Giddy up.
Shout out Craigslist.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, holy mackerel. Are we having fun or what?
Well, that was a great episode. We'll see you guys next time.
Right. Listen, we talk to you guys about tour gear, patch cables every week, and that's because we absolutely
love them.
They're a great product. We don't rep anything that isn't a great product. I mean, just plain and simple. And they have consistently delivered excellence, and we really appreciate their support for this portion of our show that's coming up next.
But
oh, here he goes. He got his wind back.
I got the wind back.
All right.
The morphine has kicked in.
Yeah.
If you go and place an order, you can maybe just buy one, but you're not going to buy just one. You're going to buy a bunch of them because they're very affordable.
Super affordable.
They're very reliable.
Super reliable.
And they're very flat.
I do not worry about them on stage, on gigging and stuff. Yeah. Patch cables were such a pain in the butt before, and also fitting them a lot of boutique pedals, drilling can be off sometimes. So you may have this pedal that you love, but guess what? Those two jacks are going to squeeze the crap out of your 9-volt plug right there. if you got pancake cables and you're going to be like, well, now what do I do? This solves that problem big time.
But you know what's even better than very affordable?
Like if you
10%
go
off.
there,
An extra.
An extra 10%
Billy,
off.
go ahead. What is it?
an extra 10% off if you say
The guitar knobs.
the guitar knobs. Just
In the
enter the
coupon
guitar
code.
knobs in the coupon code.
Yeah.
That's
The
amazing.
guitar knobs.
That's amazing. You're going to buy 1 million of them.
Well,
Bingo.
Or
And they get
close
to you
that.
fast. They're a company that's
Faster
based
than
in
DH
Canada. Definitely faster than DHgate. But I was shocked when I placed my orders.
Yeah.
I mean, within
Poof.
within days, they were sitting on my doorstep.
On the doorstep. So, anyways,
Do it.
thank you so much, Tour Gear Designs, for sponsoring our Four on the Floor.
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3. Four on the floor. All right. Trey and Tyler. First, we're going to start with Trey from Retroactive Pedals. What is your four on the floor?
Okay, so I'm gonna go based on what pedals I haven't sold or traded yet. I feel like that's a good because I buy pedals, a lot of pedals, and I trade a lot of pedals. I love trading pedals. Honestly,
It's so much fun.
it's great. It's a great way to try stuff. It's a great way to build community with other people who also enjoy pedals. It's really nice. So anyway, I do that constantly. So the pedals. And the thing is, before you even invited me on the podcast, I listened to your show and I was always said to myself, like, what would my choice be? And I always, and I always would pick like the coolest pedal or like what pedal defines me as a person or whatever. But anyway, my choices are based on what I've had the longest and what I haven't sold. So those four would be Line 6 M5 multi effects, given to me by Dave Rosser. Also, just the standard version 1 of the OCD.
Well, hang on, slow down there, buddy boy. What?
Okay.
Why the multi effects? What's up with that?
So it's just like for the modulation, you really have a lot of choices, and the wet sound to clean sound is actually not terrible. It's easy to use. It's easy to program. But the sounds are endless. And I mean, I kind of got that thing sort of around my intro to like really getting into pedals. Okay. So before I really knew what I wanted, it provided a lot of experimentation for me. And it has a little sentimental value a little bit because it was given to me by Dave Rosser, who, for very quick backstory, I used to tour professionally as a backline tech, and Dave was in the Afghan Wigs, and I'd worked with him for a long time, and he had passed away, unfortunately, and he had given that to me as well as the OCD that's next in line. And so I've had this pedals for quite a while, but the M5 just, it really has a lot of stuff. I mean, for the modulation and the delay, you really can't ask for much else. And I personally never really got into the DL4 thing, like the DL4 is that's like a lot of people's intro to delay or whatever, or modulation. I never owned one, never even played one. Can you believe it?
I haven't either. I mean, I haven't either.
You're cutting into my list, man. Come on.
Oh, sorry. I even thought about buying the new one that came out too, and I was like, you know what? I'm just like, I've never played one. I'm just going to keep on not playing one. And it sounds cool. All the demos sounded great. I'm just like, I'm very picky with delay. I'm not like a U2 kind of delay guy where I don't really run multiple delays into each other and kind of play off of the dotted eighth versus the dotted quarter or whatever. I'm kind of a slapback, kind of very subdued kind of delay, more psychedelic sounding.
Yeah. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my delay use. So I don't have much for the fancy delays really.
Cool. Well, you hit that on the nail on the head there with the M5.
And it's cheap. It's cheap. That's the thing. It's actually
used. That's like $100.
Brand new. You can get them for $150. I mean, you can't. Yeah. I mean, for what you get in the price, it's really unbeatable.
Bada bing, bada boom. So how about this OCD?
OCD. I mean, that was my first overdrive I ever owned. Overdrive has probably been my most used effect. I mean, I always need one. Whether it's subtle or extreme, it's usually more subtle for the nice, like just slight breakup. Again, it's just like I used to, when I first started playing guitar, I always kind of had just reverbs, and I was just needed ambience. And then once I kind of discovered what grit can do for you without, obviously natural breakup out of the tube amp is nice. But a lot of the times I don't have I'm in my house or whatever. I can't really crank it up. So that overdrive just added that one thing for me that I couldn't get out of my head really. I recorded this song, and this guy was like, Rick Nelson, who's the engineer also in the Afghan Wigs. He was like, "Hey man, we need this. We need a little bit of fuzz on this chorus part." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Man, this really made it sound like this is exactly what it needed."
Yeah.
So I never turned back. But the OCD for me is like, the problem I have with overdrives is I really dislike when you turn the gain up, it increases the volume so much that you have to turn the volume down.
Yeah.
And then when you turn the gain when you turn the gain down, you have to do a bunch of volume makeup. And the OCD for me kind of like it doesn't do that so much. And the thing that I also like about it is that when you turn the gain down, it's almost non-existent. There's a lot of overdrives where when you turn the gain all the way down, it's still a little too gainy,
Mm-hmm.
So it always just had that perfect balance for me personally.
Yeah.
And the high pass, low pass switch is like really great. I just also bought the germanium version. So now I have like the regular V1 in the front. I have the germanium version all the way in at the back. And it's like a really nice mix.
Dude, that V1, the price skyrocketed on those things.
I honestly haven't caught up with it because there's been so many versions since then. But I remember when Dave gave it to me, another guy in the band, his name is John Skibick. He's a big, he used to be an Electro-Harmonics demo artist, actually. He has a bunch of videos on their website, and he was in the band, guitar player, super huge pedal guy. And he was like, "Dude, open the back and like look at this thing or whatever."
Uh-huh.
And so I opened it up, and it was like whatever the good one, quote unquote, good version was. And back then, I think it ended up being just like the very first one, which apparently had a different clipping setup, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's, ever since they basically said we're going to not make pedals anymore, the version 1 like quintupled in price. You used to be able to get those less than $100 on Craigslist. And that V1 right now is $500 to $1,000.
No way.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, my high pass, low pass switch is actually broken. And I just soldered it to where it's always in the, I think it's in the high pass section. I don't remember. I mean, you can technically still flip it, but I could replace the switch too. No big deal. Yeah. But I mean, it's currently.
But that's an heirloom for you, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I would never sell just because, it was given to me by Dave.
It's worth $10,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
$1 million.
I don't know if I'm that virtuous. Sorry, Dave. He would understand.
Yeah, he would. He'd be like, "Dude, sell that thing. What are you, crazy?" Yeah. Cool. What's number 3?
Number 3 is probably the TC Electronic Flashback. The version, the first one, the regular one. I know they made a mini and then they made the deluxe. I'm talking about the regular 4-knob.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, probably one of my first pedals. It was actually it was the third pedal I ever bought with my own money.
Huh.
Again, so many delay options.
But not too many.
Not too many.
And it's in a familiar format.
Yeah, and I personally stumbled across. So that was also my first intro into pedals that are compatible with like computer software. So they have the tone print thing, and I plugged it up. And I'm not crazy about that type of stuff. I'm kind of more of like a quick set draw kind of guy. And I'm like, okay, that's good. The artists. And there was like a bunch of artist presets, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And the artist that I thought was the coolest at the time was the Mars Volta guy. I can't remember his name, Rodriguez or Rodrigo, whatever. The skinny, crazy-looking one.
Right.
Who plays the Ibanez guitars. He had a setting, and I just picked his. And then the sick thing about that is that if you actually turn the delay time and the speed or all the way down, or I'm sorry, the feedback and the delay time all the way down, it's just like the craziest chorus.
Oh,
and
really?
I've never changed the setting since. So
Oh, that's
now
cool.
that pedal for me is like a delay, and then if all I gotta do is just flip it to the tone print setting, it's like a really wild chorus, which is really cool.
Very nice. Number 4.
Number 4 is probably just a compressor in general. I don't have I've owned a bunch of them over time. The best one I've ever owned, I would probably say it was the Fairfield Accountant.
I would love to get them on.
Yeah.
I've tried a couple times. I need to try
Really?
again.
Try again. I traded that one because at the time I was like, a compressor's a compressor, right? Like you kind of just squash
You just had a whole bunch of people like.
Well, here's the thing. I realized shortly after that that's not the case. Like a really good compressor pedal
Good save.
definitely is different it's definitely different than a lot of other ones,
Yeah.
And I kind of want to get that one back.
I would love to. I think I fall in the camp where a lot of people are like, that looks really interesting. I don't know what they're doing over there with that. And we've actually had 101s on compression, and we talked to Keeley about compression for a long time, and it's one of those things that's like, I don't know. It's like a really nice tuxedo that would just hang in my closet. I just I don't know what I'm going to use you for.
Right. For me personally, since I do a lot of finger picking, it's really nice to have even dynamics across because my thumb is kind of hammering on the E and the A in a very rhythmic pattern,
right?
And then I'm kind of filling in with hammer-ons and whatnot on all the other strings, and so it's really nice to kind of level out that kind of abrupt hammer-on that I might have hit a little too hard, or it brings up in volume the kind of if I'm playing with my thumb a little too quiet and not hammering on, or the compressor works great for finger picking to level out your dynamics.
Same thing for tapping too.
I can make and then I also use the compressor for. It's really great to put after fuzz because you can squash the volume, but you get a great sustain.
Yes,
you can really crank the sustain. Same thing with that crazy the EHX Mel 9 pedal.
Yeah.
You have sustain on the pedal itself, and there's a knob for sustain, but also if you use the sustain from the compression, and so I prefer compressors that actually have a sustain knob, whatever you want to call it. Currently, I have one of the Way Huge Mark II Saffron Squeeze. They have a sustain knob on it. You can really do some cool stuff with the sustain. Even if you don't use the compression setting, just use the sustain knob. It especially with the volume pedal and stuff like that, or volume swell on your computer or your actual guitar. If you mix it with the right pedal and the right instrument, you can do some cool stuff with a compressor.
Well, I'm gonna have to look into that. See if I got it. I just gotta maybe try to get. The thing is, though, Billy, the stuff I play. Mm-hmm. I kind of depend on dynamic. You're shaking your head, kind of.
Yeah.
Do you strum a lot? Do you play punk, or do you do heavy strumming?
Yeah, I mean, think X Damned, Queen of the Stone Age, that kind of stuff.
Compressor.
No, I don't think so.
I think when you strum hard, what it would do, I think it would duck the attack initially, and then you might level out. But I don't think compressors are for heavy music. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I concur.
And a good compressor really makes a significant good difference.
Sure.
But
yeah, I mean, I can
but
see
a bad
using
one
a compressor
just kind of gets in the way, and if it's not great, and then it's not on my pedal board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Personally, my rule of thumb is if I'm strumming, don't really use compression. If I'm finger picking, yes. If I'm playing leads, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
rule of
Dave
thumb.
Gilmore kind of vibe.
Yep.
Words of advice for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from Tyler.
All right. So numero uno, we got the Digitech Whammy. I'm one of those guys.
What version?
I believe the version 1.
Oh,
Not specifically
Old school.
Like
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, I've been having this thing for a long time, and it's held up. The only pain to it is that it's that individual power supply.
Right.
So that's always been a nuisance on the board. I just really enjoy being able to play with the different harmonic series and using that to not only like help write parts, but almost give a different approach to how I'm with it in the first place. So the whammies really got some interesting use cases outside of its just what you normally would use it for. So like just running through all the different settings really quickly and recording something like that would allow you to get some really cool samples out of it. And it's all has that bass note to it that allows you to use it in that key. And I've played around with sampling, just doing stuff with that as the effect itself. So a lot of my choices are not really based on the use case for the pedals themselves.
That's fair.
Yeah, like the whammy has really kind of introduced me to that approach. And I am one of those DL4 nerds that will speak volumes to that pedal, and I love its application. So DL4 is my second choice. Being able to take a sample and use it in the context of the song, very Minus the Bear-esque. Was super inspired by that. And I was the first delay pedal that I was able to understand the ongoing feedback oscillation and using that in a practical way, not just to like end your set and get off the stage. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So the deal for me was the intro to only playing the pedal, but playing with the pedal. And I think that's why a lot of people are hardcore DL4 fans. It's probably the same reason why. So number 3, it would have to be the Crybaby Classic Wah. When I was gigging live, I used probably the wah an obnoxious amount and relied on that being a dynamic change in the notes that I was playing. And then sometimes I'd have to tap dance with the whammy with the wah at the same time. I'm sure it's very entertaining to watch, but not fun to do. So yeah, the wah's definitely on there.
All
and this last one, that was 4, right? Or
That was 3.
There's 3.
Okay, this last one here is the Radial Direct Drive, the amp simulator direct box. And again, not intended use, but I use it as a reamp. So basically the complete opposite of what it's supposed to do. And it works beautifully this way. Anyone who has that then wants to reamp stuff with their direct drive, you can. I've asked them personally. It's okay.
Wow.
It does color up the signal a little bit, but for anyone who's trying to get into that, I highly suggest doing that, especially if you have one already. You don't have to go buy a reamp specifically. You could use something like this.
So give me a case scenario on I don't reamping is not a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, at least on the show, but yeah, why don't you give us an example of why that would be useful?
So specifically for Retroactive, I was doing pedal demos and we were uploading these to our reels on a weekly basis. And I had to have a way in order to manipulate the pedal after the song was recorded. So not be able, like, not play the song or the track and go in and tweak the pedals. So I would record those parts and feed it into the direct drive. And what that allowed me to do is bounce that back out into my DAW and use our pedal in real time and tweak the settings. So that's how I got a lot of our demos, like our playthroughs, done
Okay.
that specific way. And being able to reamp in general, just in a studio setting, is an amazing feature because you could have your DI signal recorded in your DAW and actually convert that audio signal back over to it being on level with a guitar signal, and plug that into a real amplifier and try out different amps to get different tones and record that in real time with no loss in audio or any kind of coloration with an actual reamp box. So in a studio setting, it's very valuable because you could just record that DI one time and you have a plethora of options after that's even recorded. You don't have to actually do it again. So reamping in general is awesome.
That was a very thorough explanation. I appreciate that.
You got it, man. But yeah, I would say those are the 4, and they're all for very different use cases than what they're supposed to be for.
And you have a boogie board sized pedal board to fit all those big old bastards on there.
Right. I even have an M9. So like, I understand.
There you go.
Gargantuan guy, like one of those self-powering pedal boards from back in the Gap.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Right. I used to have one and then streamlined it down, but like I said, now studio work, so it's just everywhere instead of just a board.
Nice. Well, dudes, thank you for sharing all of those fantastic pedals. We've had a couple of those on there before that get mentioned. Believe it or not, that whammy gets mentioned a lot. And we stopped
awesome.
kind of
It's so
keeping
cool.
track. I think about 2, maybe 3 years ago, we did a summation of, I think it was like 300. We had like 350 pedals that had been mentioned.
Oh,
and
that's
we had
100
already,
episodes ago. We
I
probably
could write a book on all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then they came out with all these pedal books, whatever.
Stupid books.
Whatever. Anyways, let's find out about retroactive pedals and what makes you guys tick, what you have to offer, why they're different, why you love doing it, all the things. First of all, is there any specific notion behind the name?
So when I came up with the name, this would have been probably 2016 or 17. I had first wanted to make kind of vintage Russian pedals, and basically play on like retro pedals, like, visually and sonically. But I realized very, very, very quickly that sourcing like new old stock parts is just a pain. Mm-hmm. So then I switched. I was like, okay, I'm not going to obviously do that. And then I just started kind of tinkering around or whatever. And then I kind of thought retroactive is more of like, I've explained this on the 40 Watt podcast recently, and I probably won't be able to say it as I won't be able to articulate it like I did on there, but it's like basically we made a mood board. I made a mood board and I sent it to Tyler for the artwork. And I was like, look, we need to kind of capture this like idea of the future from the past, if that makes sense. Like, how Blade Runner and all these like very famous 80s movies came out that they made them so long ago. So the technology was like kind of not that great, but they projected their ideas so far ahead in the future.
Yeah.
And so when you look back on that stuff now, it's like kind of hilarious that you have, stuff from the 80s trying to like recreate like the future of 2000 years in the future kind of thing. So we kind of try to take that idea, I guess. It's like future, like past futurism. I don't know if that's even making sense, but
retrofuturism.
Yeah, retrofuturism. So
I looked it up.
That's kind of like the approach that we take now, at least with the graphic design and the artwork. When I first started doing this, I did it all by myself. So if you look at some of my older units that are floating around Reverb or something, they look very simple, like not very fun. It was just like I'm not a graphic designer. So whenever Tyler got involved with like the art direction and stuff like that, we really took that futurism and also the storyline aspect of it to the next level, really, where we give each character on the pedal a storyline. We wrote a bunch of backstory for these characters in hopes that one day we have enough resources to kind of do a zine or something like that. And Tyler had this really great concept of a podcast that is super unique to podcasts, what we see in the modern day. And I mean, Tyler, you can kind of explain your podcast concept, how it ties into the story and the characters that we have. This would be a massive undertaking for both of us, because we'd have to turn into like screenwriters, which I'm not that great. I think it's great fun, but I wouldn't consider myself a screenwriter. But Tyler has a cool idea for a podcast that is super unique, and I'll let him kind of go on with that.
Yeah, man. Trey hooked me up with a really awesome canvas to paint on, in other words. I'm one of these creative types that, like, if I have something to work off of, it's not as polarizing as the open void. I'm sure most people could understand. So Retroactive in itself was a really cool place to find some roots and go from there. The retrofuturism thing is really kind of taken over, where most of the things that I'm trying to do, like our photo shoots, using vintage technology to showcase the pedals in a way that's very sci-fi, but looks like it's old. And that's really our main shtick. In fact, so that I have a giant CRT TV right next to me that I use as backdrops for our photo shoots. And I take graphics and project it onto the TV in order to see if the way the pixels blur together, if it reminds me of those old school games that used to come. And I really kind of took that concept and ran with it. The whole idea behind each one of the pedals having their own specific characters was pretty natural after we actually came up with the artwork itself. When we were designing the artwork, it was more or less of understanding the concept and just rolling with it. And each one of them features a different character, so they all kind of have their part in this larger overarching story to Retroactive. And it's beyond what is even me and Trey's concept. Like, we've got it to a point now where we could understand it's much larger than the actual effect unit, and the characters on the pedals are inspiring this story, which is a very easy to story to get lost in. I'm not too sure how much we can actually say yet, but what we can say is that it is scripted, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's retrofuturism. So it's a story that takes place in the late 40s about sci-fi in 200 years from then.
So let me interject a little bit on. So Tyler had this idea. So Tyler has a podcast of his own called Dank Swamp Rebellion, similar to this one, where you just chat about relevant topics of the interest of the group. But the Retroactive podcast wouldn't be us sitting around here as ourselves talking about gear. It's about and we'd have to play voiceover characters, which is again very out of my realm.
That sounds so much fun.
But
it's wild.
Yeah,
but I'm volunteer as a guest. As a guest voice,
and I will too.
Oh, not Tony.
Well, actually, Tony, you would have a great voice for this, because basically the point of the story is, like Tyler said, it's about a radio broadcaster from the 1940s, 1950s who is losing his job as television kind of starts to come out. He's a sci-fi storyteller, so all these kids gather around the radio at their homes to listen to the Retroactive radio show, and it's this guy who's like a staple 1950s kind of talks like this very stoic voice, and he tells all these sci-fi stories.
Very stoic voice about a very serious subject.
Exactly. And now that TV is kind of taking over, this guy's losing his job, and he kind of gets phased out by the network, and we kind of figured a way to kind of wrap it up to where he gets kind of sucked into his own reality, and he enters this futuristic state that like he somehow becomes the story that he talks about, and like all of our characters are the story that he tells to the kids every day over the radio or once a week or whatever. But somehow he gets kind of lost and he becomes part of it.
It's a very fun sandbox.
That's
to play
awesome.
I like it.
And this allows us to let the pedals that we're developing inspire the story, and the story develop the pedals and the artwork. So it all kind of like is connected in a way that we really didn't see before we started, coming up with the concept. So,
and the characters already have their own sort of theme sound.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever putting together a pilot for this, I've used theme songs for each one of these characters, showcasing that effect, and voiced different characters. And of course, I could only make my voice personally sound a certain way. But just to give you an idea, this is the Retroactive radio show.
Perf. Now you just need to strap a bucket to your head so it has that can.
Oh yeah. So a big part of
or like a KFC bucket or something.
Already been done.
The show is absolutely split into separate parts where it's internal monologue that sounds like modern radio, and then it also cuts to what it would sound like when he's telling that story if it were in a tin can from the 40s.
That's cool.
It's a really easy way to understand which part of the timeline are we in.
I love it. It's and for those who are wondering kind of visually what this is looking like. I mean, super vibrant. Think like, it's like ink on foil, super vibrant kind of things, colors. Imagine that. And we're just looking at the pedal right now, but I'm also looking at your website, which is extremely vibrant, but not in a perfectly digitally now kind of way. It's very cool.
It took us a very long time to come up with how we would present the artwork, and ultimately landing on what we have on these now with the holofoil underneath it and the super vibrant colors, but it has this kind of like old comic book print style to it.
But it's not too old. It's like you have sort of created a retro, sort of a not a non-specific retro time, which is actually really cool and difficult to do. I come from a design background, and those things are so easily identifiable and recognizable, because we know history and we know what things look like. So to be able to kind of bring those all together in a way that isn't like, oh, that's late post-war. That's post-war. Oh, this is pre-space age. This is mid-space age. This is late pre-70s. And those things are visually instantly identifiable. And I really love that you're dipping into so many inkwells to pull these things together and make it unique.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that. Like me and Trey really put the time to figure out how to get that point across that was super important to us, and give respect to the actual effect that Trey built as well. So we're purely talking about aesthetics at this point, but the circuitry behind it is super awesome. Like what Trey's put together over the years of putting this, and
it sounds like the thing you're looking at, though. That's the kind of the cool part.
I love that you said that. Awesome.
Yeah, that really is the whole main point of it. Is like I said earlier, with the like retro futurism kind of old new kind of thing. It's like my effects definitely aren't pristine. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of degradation involved, and people like to throw the word lo-fi around, and because that's kind of like a buzzword in some respects in the industry. And I kind of just let the pedal speak for itself. I don't really try to place it somewhere where it doesn't belong. But yeah, we definitely do try to build the story around the sound and then let the sound be affected by the story down the line, kind of thing, you know.
Well, you hit a word. I think if you tried to say you can either be modern, you can be vintage, or you can be lo-fi. Lo-fi is such an all-encompassing thing. There's not really a whole lot of middle ground in between those. So maybe you're stumbling on a new adjective.
It's interesting to think about.
Adjectives. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like, it feels like a sandbox playing with this concept, and it's really easy to spend a lot of time just hammering different details out. Same thing with it mirrors what Trey does on the design part, where he'll be working on new concepts or new developments on things at the same time that I'm also working on that, and I'm letting what happens to him inspire what happens in the story, which drives certain characters to be a certain way. And I think the really awesome part about it for me personally is that everything's connected. So it allows space to breathe between each concept of retroactive pedals. And the sci-fi retro futurism is just a really awesome place to be.
Right.
Because you got to think too, like if someone was telling a story from the past about the future, you could just say things that are actually happening right now, just in a little bit weirder of a context, and get away with it.
Yeah, dig it. And you know what? You make them collectible because now they are personified.
Well, we actually kind of you have the cards in your box, if you remember opening it up. We did kind of create these like kind of rip off baseball card collectors items kind of things where there's a QR code on the back. But yeah, we added those little cards because we wanted those to be somewhat of collector's items, because obviously we'll be able to change the characters, or a pedal might come out of rotation down the line, but those cards kind of do become a little bit of a collector's item as far as collecting the artwork from Tyler.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now getting onto the audio, and then we'll push towards the to the home base here. Is there anything that is? We know the story about what's driving kind of like the thematic approach to these from an audio standpoint. Is there anything specifically that is inspiring the sounds that you're making?
Well, yes and no. You know what I mean? Like I will say this: the PT2399 chip is something that a lot of people are familiar with now, especially because a lot of consumers are getting kind of a bird's eye view of a lot of pedal industry tactics and whatnot. Now that like things like the JHS show, tons of podcasts, people are kind of like pulling the curtain back a little bit on the design process. So consumers are also doing their own research, and they're aware of what goes into pedals, and they're not just blindly buying stuff. So a lot of people are very aware of what the PT2399 is. And it's a delay chip, basically. I'll just keep it very vague and broad, but it's a delay chip that I use in these pedals, and it's a lot of builders' first intro to modulation. So, if you're going to start to building pedals and you don't have digital experience, or you don't have any other experience, you're starting with fuzz or dirt. I mean, that's kind of generally where you start. And a lot of people stay there. But the PT chip is a lot of people's very first intro into stepping outside of dirt. And that's where I started. I mean, that's where I went. And so my sound with these pedals, it definitely still is inspired by the name. And I always try to get it to tie in somewhere. It had to start somewhere. But also, it's just based on my journey as a pedal builder. I'm a dirt builder for the longest time, and you're cutting your teeth on a lot of dirt pedals. And then at some point you got to take the leap of faith and kind of start going to way bigger circuits and doing delays and doing modulation. And you got to and that's just, it's all part of the journey that I took as a builder, really. So it's a story that it's a story that I always tried to keep, a starting point somewhere to tie it all in together. But at the same time, it is just the evolution of me as a builder going into modulation and exploring with different chips and sounds.
All right, are you going to go back to dirt?
So, funny story. For the longest time, I was avoiding dirt because the market is saturated. It is in general, but like I said, a lot of people's first pedals are dirt. So any new companies, it's always generally an overdrive or a fuzz or something like that. And I was like, if I'm going to break into any sort of scene, any kind of way, I think I need to start with something a little more like eye catching or eye grabbing a little bit. So that's why I always started with the PT stuff. But I do have a fuzz in the works right now as we speak. The circuit is done. It's tested. I'm just waiting. Actually, I have a parts order coming in as we speak. I just got to send it off to my sticker guy to make sure that because I'm doing a new layout on this one. The 125B is too small for this design. So I had to bump it up to the 1590 NS. So yes, I'm going to try my hand at dirt. I don't necessarily know if it's going to sell. Who knows? But I'm going to put out a dirt pedal. I think it's really cool. It has a great sound. I just gave it to a friend in town, a prototype, and he recorded a whole couple songs with it. He said it was the greatest dirt pedal he's ever heard.
Them's high praise.
Yeah, I take that stuff with a grain of salt.
That's just cool. That's great.
People are nice, but I'm just gonna try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it is what it is. But it's a cool pedal, and I think I'm hoping sometime next year we'll be able to release it. And dirt is just one of those weird things, man, where like I know a company that survives solely on one dirt pedal.
Yeah, there's a couple of them like that.
Yeah, and am I trying to do that? Not necessarily, but I think a lot of people love fuzz and they love dirt, which I totally agree. And so I'm going to try.
But you need them all. That's the thing. There's not just one, man.
You really do.
So
you really do.
The more, the merrier.
You really do. But, I definitely, as a company, never wanted to just come right out the gate and just say, okay, I have 10 pedals as like, that's my line.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to strategically like feel the market, be like, okay, this pedal's doing great. Let me keep going with it. Let me introduce one new pedal here. How did that do? It didn't do that great. Just pull it down right away. Introduce a third pedal, because my first pedal is not going anywhere. If people still like it, it's going to keep going. And that will always let me afford to buy more materials for the next idea.
Sure.
So I'm not necessarily trying to come out and have a pedal for every person. And like, I need a fuzz, I need an overdrive, I need a distortion, I need a phaser, I need a flanger, I need a delay, I need a reverb, I need a tremolo. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I definitely want to take my time. I definitely want to think about it, because there's nothing worse than putting out a pedal that doesn't sell, and then you got a backlog of a bunch of parts and a bunch of stuff taking up space, and it's not selling. I mean, it happened with my phaser. And the funny thing is, like, I thought that was one of the coolest circuits I've ever made. It was like a phaser and an octave fuzz. You can flip the circuits back and forth. It's super psychedelic. Ryan at Demos in the Dark did a great demo for it. It just didn't sell, and it was a pain in the butt to build. And so now I have a bunch of them just sitting on the shelf, and like that honestly like kind of sucks, but you just got to keep moving and keep designing other stuff, And so I'm like, you know what? Everybody likes fuzz. I'm just going to go for it, and we'll see what happens. So likely 2023, early 2023, I'll have a fuzz, but I'll actually say something very exclusive here on your podcast. You've heard it first here, folks.
Okay.
I will say, without giving too much away, the very first batch of these, we're going to do a run of 25, and they're going to be exclusive artwork. We did something super cool for this one, just kind of coming right out the gate with like really cool graphics, really cool little sticker, a totally new approach to what our other stuff looks like. And then once this batch is gone, we'll do, if people still want them, we'll do a batch that is more in line with our sci-fi stuff and kind of fits the scheme of Retroactive, but the emblem, we're going to call this one the emblem exclusive, and it's going to be 25 totally unique and totally rad looking fuzz pedals.
That sounds awesome.
Well, speaking of artwork, I know on the pedal that we have here in front of us and the ones that I've seen on your site, I really like the artwork that's on there, and it seems to be like, is it under like an epoxy kind of bubble, or what?
Yeah.
What exactly is that?
So this is a company that I found out of Salt Lake City called Dome Tag, and they specialize in industrialized stickers like this for a bunch of companies. They sent me a sample pack with like Target and some other big companies. But what they call it is a substrate. That's the bottom layer. So your substrate is what the holographic material is on that particular pedal. They sent me a sample pack, and I've talked to this. Their customer service is great. I've talked to them months and months and months. But their substrate material is basically, they offer like I think 4 or 5 main materials. So you have the holographic substrate, you have a clear substrate, you have a holographic silver, you have a brushed silver, and I believe like something else. Or you can have like I think a solid white. Mm-hmm. So that's just the base layer. So you always have one or the other. And then on top of that is their proprietary, I forgot the name of it. They call it some kind of crazy
clear goo.
Yeah, and then they have
epoxy thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like an epoxy deal.
It's cool,
but there's a tact, like sort of a surprise tactile nature to it. I open it up and oh man, I love
this. It
feels
great to touch.
It does.
It feels incredible to touch.
In photographing them, you get a new color angle every time you shine light in a different way.
That's got to be great and frustrating at the same time.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Well, that's Going forward, I was going to just say quickly that I got a notification that their holographic material is kind of. I don't know if I'd be able to continue doing holographic, so it might be a short-lived thing. We'll have to see, because what they're doing is basically all the holographic excess material they're kind of recombining. But what happens is they sent me a photo. There's like a streak, like you can almost see where like the two pieces come together, if that makes sense. And it's kind of like a streak. And
so
I was like,
they're
that's
like
not,
remnant matching it.
Yeah, that might not work for me.
No bueno.
So we might have to figure out something else.
These versions, what we got left is that's it.
That might be it. So
go and get them while they're hot, everybody.
Go get them while they're hot. And working with this company was really great because they've never done something like this. So they were all freaking out. They thought this was the coolest thing since sliced bread or whatever. Because they generally make rectangles, circles, whatever. They don't really do materials with holes in the center because obviously they had to accommodate for the nut width and the washer width rather, and like holes for the LED, holes for the switches to pop through. And it was a big challenge for them too, but and that's why I send them prototypes. So I'm sending them a prototype here in a second for this fuzz. But they need to have the physical thing in hand so they can sort of figure it out, because they've never done something like this before.
Yeah. That's killer, man. It's super cool. I hope that a lot of people get their hands on these and get to see them in person and hold one, play one, do all the things with them. I'm excited about what you guys have for the future, and I definitely, you guys have to hit us up as you progress along, okay?
Yeah, I'm serious. If we ever get around to doing the Retroactive radio show where we kind of try to get that podcast to make it sound like it's a real radio broadcast from the days of yore, I'll definitely be in touch with anybody who's interested. And we even want to get the our customers involved somehow. We tried to think about doing some kind of, if you buy a pedal, you'll scan the QR code and that will somehow enter you into the universe of some sort. And there's
you guys got to get on some NFT with this stuff,
there's
man.
So many options, man. I think Tyler might even investigate NFT.
Yeah, the good news here is that I will need a ton of backing tracks to make this work, and I don't want to write them all. So please help me.
Yeah,
We definitely have plans to integrate, because the whole point of building pedals in a way is to build a community with somebody, whether it's our clients or whether it's somebody like you guys who do shows or, it's not all about money, because obviously there's not that much money in pedal building if you're on the level that we're on. It's more about the community and being a part of something that we are interested in passion.
Yeah.
And so when we create something like this, and when we create this story, and when we create this kind of idea, we want people to be involved. That's why I got Tyler involved, because it really wasn't fun doing this by myself. Like, it's better when somebody's there. So we want to get the people involved, but just, we don't have all the pieces to the puzzle just yet. And, we encourage people to step forward and maybe suggest some stuff or be a part of it too. That's how things get built, when people put their minds together and, share ideas.
Yeah. Well, killer. Thank you guys for sharing all that with us. We are going to motor over real quickly. We're going to hop in the El Camino.
Yes, after last week, that exhaust leak in that 49 Nash.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, I had a headache for a week.
Dreadful.
Oh, terrible stuff.
Yes.
But today we've got the El Camino.
Yep.
We're loading it up with plenty of high-test gas.
Yeah.
We're going to take a trip down to see our buddy Jared down in Nashville.
And Orange Monster drinks.
And also our buddy Trey down in Nashville now.
Yeah.
So we can make a two-stopper. So in this little segment that we like to call, Hey, Would You Rather?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Would you rather? There we go. There's an easier one. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I like mine better.
All right.
So this week's Would You Rather is brought to you by me.
Perfect.
It's a foggy night, and you're walking down a dark, deserted street. As you pass by an alley, you see a buzzing, flashing neon sign that says, Secret Stash Guitars. You crack open the door and cautiously enter. Inside is a small collection of very unique instruments, all celebrity-owned and signed, and all but two have hold tags on them. The first is a newer Gretsch Billy Bo Jupiter that was owned, stage played, and signed by Reverend Billy Gibbons. The other is a Gretsch Bo Diddley, the rectangular-shaped one, that was owned, stage played, and signed by the man Bo Diddley himself and the Duchess.
Oh.
Yes, we love the Duchess. Surprisingly, both are priced the same, and luck would have it, you have that amount in your wallet.
No way.
It's exactly that amount.
Down to the penny.
Which guitar do you take home and why?
All right. Okay. Tony, what? So just minor. I was so enthralled with the story.
I know you were.
Which one?
There's two of them.
Yeah.
There's a newer Billy Bo.
Billy Bo.
That's signed by Billy Gibbons.
Yep.
And then there's an older Bo Diddley model, the rectangular shaped one, that's signed by Bo Diddley and the Duchess.
Okay. Got it. Does color or paint scheme factor into this at all?
They're both red.
They're both red. Okay. Classic.
So,
all right. Tony, what are you doing?
Well, seeing as I have a perfectly good chili bow.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go. I would do this otherwise. This either way. I'm going with the Bo Diddley. Yes, something like that. I'll take the rectangular Bo Diddley because it is signed and played by Bo Diddley and the Duchess.
There you go. Okay.
That's what I want. That's why I'm getting that one.
Perfect. Tyler.
So I'm going to have to do the Bo Diddley only because it would be easy to modify and be left-handed.
Yes.
Oh, good thinking.
That's smart thinking.
Good thinking.
The pain of having to find left-handed stuff out in the wild is, I don't know how to explain it. It's like the unicorn that you're explaining now.
It is. Hey, well, there's a couple things we'll talk after the show.
Okay.
All right, Trey.
Okay, I'm going to be a little complicated and say, so they both have the same pickups, right?
Yeah, filter
gold foil,
yeah.
Filtertron. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So based on aesthetics, I would pick the Billy Bo, obviously. But based on who it's signed by, I would pick the Bo Diddley. So if it came down to the wire, I would do the Bo Diddley because of who it's signed by.
Mm-hmm.
But the Billy Bo looks incredible.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. So you're going rectangle.
I'm going rectangle as well.
I think
Also,
we've got 3 rectangles so far.
Yeah, I'm. Are you familiar with God, what's his name? Carbonetti Guitars. He's a kind of rare builder out of New York City. He's in a band called Caveman. He built. I think his name is Matt Sweeney. Do you know Matt Sweeney?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He built Matt Sweeney a custom Bo Diddley style square guitar. That's a gold top kind of deal with his signature headstock. It looks incredible. I'd play that one.
Okay.
Look it up.
Going to check that out.
Look it up.
Oh,
yeah, look up.
It's sort of like a. Oh,
can you see it?
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing one. Oh, Billy.
There's probably literally one of one. There's probably one of one because he's a very he doesn't build things.
Very interesting headstocks, and very interesting guitars altogether. Wow, there's some real. Yeah, these are all like very unique guitars.
Yeah.
Cool.
I warned. Yeah, he's randomly building. He's also weirdly partnering with somebody in building golf clubs.
Well, that kind of makes sense looking at
It
Be design.
totally does. Look at. I don't know. If you go down the rabbit hole of that guy, look up. You'll find his golf clubs.
All right, will do. All right, Billy, what are you doing?
Billy Bo. I'm going Billy Bo because my name's Billy.
There you go.
Is your middle name
Simple
Bo?
as that.
Tony, these we got to level. We got to get you a master class on the sweet add-on there. Yeah. No, Tony's very funny usually.
You're going to make me cry, Todd.
Anyways,
I'm
okay.
laughing on the
Billy,
outside, but
laughing-
crying on the
crying
inside.
I'm gonna.
Let's just
I gotta
skip
go.
Todd.
I gotta go with the original one. I gotta go rectangle on that one too.
Yeah.
But I gotta go to put a. No, I can't put a gold card. Yeah.
Let's go. We
Yeah.
did 4, right? So
I
now
think
we
that'd be
got
cool.
4.
I mean, there's something so like. I mean, for lack of better terms, like the rudimentary nature, it is a rectangle, and there's something brutish about that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
BRUT, not BROOD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, well, that was delightful, Tony. Thank you so much. We need to thank a few people, and then we need to let our friends and those listeners who are still with us go.
You are correct, Todd, because at this part of the show, there's a very special group of people that we love to thank. These are our executive producers. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is this executive producer that you're speaking of? Well, an executive producer makes this show possible. There are a couple levels in which you can participate. But first, head over to patreon.com/the guitar knobs and check these things out.
Yeah.
Is that where you get your name on the thing?
Well, in addition to all the great thank you gifts, there's one more thing. And Billy, what is that?
Your name on the thing?
You get to have your name
on the
read on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I knew there was that.
You're with it. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
Perfect.
I'm going to read these names, and I would like to offer a sincere
This is the thing.
thanks.
This is the thing.
This is the thing.
What
Here's
we're
your
doing
name.
is the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So special thanks to these executive producers: Moon Guitars, Vader Pedals, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Mike D, Richard Kendall, Mark Garton, Matt Hart, James White, Justin Jones, Anthony Gemolero, Bill Gola Guitars, John Esterle, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Doug Christ, Darren Gregory, Tom Brazen, Rusty Sneeden, Ralph Gottschalk, Don Kloss, Gregory Randall, Brett Hogarth, Eric Hemmer, Stuart George, Michael Furman, Andrew DeHaan, and there's a new Andrew in town.
Oh.
That bloke Andrew Bell.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard, Andrew.
Thank you, gentlemen, that we referenced on the last episode.
Yes, indeedy. But wait, Todd, there's more.
I knew there would be.
Because we have a special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. These fine folks have a fez to wear upon their head whilst listening to the podcast.
And at the same time.
So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs. Tommy Manasco, Ricardo Higuereta, David Kaminga, Brandon Wound Pickups, Hex Matos, Michio Murakishi, Bob Crouch, Jack Gadian, Sam Jett, Tyler Rhines, LSJ Music Company, John Williams, James Pennington, Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Cody Foster, Science of Sound, Brian Robinson, Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, Michael Van Zant, Tim Novak, Jonathan Daly, Martin Cliff, Sean S., Eddie Serratos, Billy Poe. No, not Billy Poe, David Poe.
Yes.
It's
Billy Bo.
It's close to Billy. Yeah, exactly. I think we'll change his name. Billy Spitfire. There's where the Billy came from. And Congregation Gear Demos.
Perfection.
Thank you.
Thank you all so very much. You keep this going, and you keep us being able to reach out to guests like we just talked to tonight and bring them to our audience. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really enjoyed having you. Where can people go and get these awesome pedals that you've been talking about?
www.retroactivepedals.com/shop. And we also have a dealer list too. We really like for you to support our dealers. We have a small dealer group, but by supporting them, you're supporting us as well. So you can buy direct from us on the website, or you can check our dealer page and pick your favorite dealer and see what they have in stock. And if they don't have it in stock, ask them to re-up. Or if you don't see us in your favorite shop, maybe ask them if they want to carry us. And that's how we grow and make friends.
That's a great. Yeah. I just want to point out, as a matter of fact, we talk about whenever we have builders on, we're like, hey, try to buy directly from the builders. Hey, we all love Craigslist and we all love Reverb, but if we have the opportunity to support the people that are building these, we really encourage buying directly from them. That being said, if you are buying from a reputable shop or dealer, you are actually supporting the pedal builder. You don't have to go directly through there. And I think that is a distinction worth mentioning. All right. Indeed. Tony.
Yes?
Where can people find you?
Go over to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the wares I have to offer. But by and large, what I do is custom work. So shoot me an email. Let me know what you're trying to do, what you think. Who knows? I might even have, some suggestions for you. Pickguardian.com.
Perfect. Billy
Spitfire from Billy Spitfire Unlimited. You can find me on Instagram at Billy Spitfire. You can find me on Facebook at Billy Spitfire Unlimited.
And you've got a big art show coming up.
I have a big art show coming up.
Yeah,
that's my first one.
Yeah.
Holiday Hop, Columbus, Ohio.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
You can send me an email, Todd at theguitarknobs.com. You can DM me on Instagram at guitarknobs. And I would very much encourage you and love for you to go listen to my band, the Valentinos. Anywhere you can stream stuff. I think you like it. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. You might even love it.
What's your MySpace account?
Shut it, Tony. All right, guys, Retroactive Pedals, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd.
And everybody else out there, have a fantastic guitar week and subscribe!
Yeah.
I'm going to get this thing going. We're going to introduce ourselves real quick. And
Hi.
Oh, my gosh. Tony, I'm right here.
Hi, Todd.
They can hear you, too. They have got a mic. You have a microphone.
They've got a microphone.
Everybody's got microphones.
Yep.
Billy, do you have a microphone? I'm brain dead.
Well, that doesn't help anybody out except me. Hey, can you move? No, Todd wants to move back from the mic. It's not good enough. He just starts going crazy.
What's up, man?
Oh, hey, how you doing tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he just started sharing the room with us. So, yeah, we have a triple bunk bed like the Three Stooges.
Oh, and if you want me to turn on the Cajun accent for you guys,
Oh, yeah.
man.
just let me know, babe. I could hook that up real quick. I just had some
beautiful.
gumbo. I got back from the swamp.
I love gumbo.
He's about to jump on the mic in a minute. We got Tony Baloney here.
I am.
Something else about Tony is that he works in a very, very small space doing that plastic. So then when he gets here,
I'm all fumed out, man.
He's all just like, what? He's like freaking 200-pound Fozzie Bear.
200 pounds. Thank you, Todd.
Oh, yeah, 275. Sorry.
Evolving your
It's like-
taste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like old dudes that are just out of shape and out of touch. And
Tony, why did you just look up right there?
I resemble that remark.
yeah,
Literally.
Yeah.
I actually have a small glass of wine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nothing fancy. It's just from Publix.
I would have been so impressed if you would have called it claret.
No.
Then we'll edit
Yeah.
that later.
What?
Yeah.
We're going out live to 10 million people right now. So sit back and relax.
Okay. Where's the microphone? Because that means I'm just going to get through this, Tony.
Why don't you just get through this, Todd? I had to write the whole would you rather.
I know.
You know, and
Hey.
I just can't take it anymore.
I believe that. 7 and 9.
Hey, are we doing a podcast tonight?
Well, now, yeah. We are.
I mean, what? I thought we were just on the computer
it's gonna
talking.
be as perfect as Todd can get it.
Okay. And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.